Let's speak now to Nida Ibrahim, who's live for us in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. So we've just been talking about how all this plays out in Israel. How is the leadership there viewing these mediated negotiations between the US and Iran, Nida?
Well, behind closed doors, these officials are viewing these discussions very negatively. As we know, Israel has advocated for so many goals, mainly, specifically, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Before the war started, he was talking more about ending the regime, talking about the enriched uranium, talking about the nuclear program, ending it once and for all. But now Netanyahu finds himself in a position where he cannot defy Trump publicly, but at the same time he's trying to maneuver the pressure domestically because he could not fulfill these goals. We are talking about a man who has been talking about strategic goals, about goals that would benefit Israel on the long run for decades. But at the same time, we're looking at a man who is really aiming to avoid these court cases, the corruption cases, and stay in power. And all of these talks of a potential deal defies what Israel's interests are, but also defies what Netanyahu's interests are as we are talking about upcoming elections. The issue of the nuclear program is very strategic, very important, very hard to be missed in the discussions amongst Israelis. And that's why we are seeing more and more pressure on Netanyahu when it comes to the discussions with Iran, when it comes to the pressure that he could potentially put on Trump to try and get these negotiations in a way that would benefit Israel. We've heard him yesterday talk about the fact that he wants, that Trump had told him that the nuclear program will be resolved, that Iran would not be enriching or keeping any of the highly enriched uranium. But still, all of that is being seen in the lens of Netanyahu trying to calm down his domestic pressure, his audience, as a way to continue to lead the population and try and gather more votes. Let's listen into some of these discussions that are happening in Israeli media.
Trump blinked first, and the Iranians can chalk this up as a win for themselves. We are in a war against Iran, and that war is not over. It could drag on, and we may find ourselves fighting additional rounds against Iran at various intervals, because if we don't, they will get the bomb.
Nida, Iran has made it clear it doesn't want to separate Lebanon from any future agreement with the United States, but the reality on the ground is a continued exchange of fire between Israel and Hezbollah, Nida.
Yes, indeed, and Neve, one of the things that are worrying Israelis in the ongoing confrontations, although we're talking about a ceasefire, but we are still continuing to see many, if we call them strikes, happening between the two parties in southern Lebanon. And one of the main issues that are irking Israelis are these drone attacks, these drones that continue to infiltrate into areas where Israelis are, continue to cause casualties. And we've heard from the Israeli media that the conversations between the Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and the Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir have been very intense with the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, trying to get him to attack Beirut, trying to get him to strike more targets in Lebanon. And just in the past hour or so, we've seen another tweet by Itamar Ben-Gvir saying that the government should should crack on more targets inside Beirut in retaliation for these drone attacks. Also, we've been hearing reportedly that Bezalel Smotrich has been saying that for every drone attack, 5 buildings in Beirut should be targeted, and he's talking about the southern suburb, one of the strongholds of Hezbollah. All of these debates are happening at a time when Iran is pushing to keep Lebanon in the upcoming deal as part of the fronts that Israel want target. But Israel is trying to find a way, to find a leeway, to find a leverage, even if the deal were to be signed, that they would have the ability, the allowance from President Trump to continue striking targets inside Lebanon.
In just 24 hours in northern Israel alone, not southern Lebanon, 30 kamikaze drones came down. This has been the state of affairs up north for days now, with drones creeping further south, reaching the border towns and may push on towards Haifa and then Tel Aviv.
And that's an issue that Netanyahu will have to deal with, because we are not just talking about elections that might happen in October. We might be looking at earlier elections, as the Knesset today is voting on a potential dissolve of itself. Now, the Knesset usually ahead of each elections votes to dissolve itself. But for now, there are talks about potential earlier elections. And the earlier these elections are held, the higher the chances that Netanyahu stands to lose them or not gain any majority that would allow him to form the next government. That's why he's taking these hours as important. He's thinking, he's trying to lobby, not just to sabotage the deal internationally when we talk about the US and Iran deal, but also trying to see how domestically he can push his members not to vote for early elections and to try and cling to power as long as he can.
Al Jazeera's Nida Ibrahim there in Ramallah. Thank you, Nida.